Tell me. Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Hello, my name is Chelsea DeVries, and I'm the author of Sticks and Stones Poetry and Prose Full Story Edition. I wrote this poetry collection to help people who struggle with mental health issues, as I've struggled with both anxiety and depression since the age of 12, and unbeknownst to me, was autistic but didn't know it until I was 29 years of age. At the time, I was diagnosed with autistic spectrum disorder, and I was originally diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, but it is no longer a full diagnosis. This actually isn't my first time appearing at a library. I published 2 novels while enrolled as an IB student at Gulf High School, and I did readings as a teenage author. So this isn't my first rodeo. I wrote this collection, Sticks and Stones, about my experience working in a toxic work environment with themes of suicide, love, and heartbreak, hoping my story would help others who have dealt with similar experiences be able to reach healing from the pain and rise above what is dragging them under. And now I will start reading some poetry. I've been misunderstood, more times than most can knock on wood, but I'm lucky to be alive, ready to soar, willing to thrive. Life is but a prize for those who know the struggle to survive. The next poem that I'm going to read is my first poem I ever knowingly wrote at only 14 years of age. I never planned on showing anyone, but I remember sitting in English class in high school and the words just poured out of me. For the life of me, I don't even know what we were studying, but that poem would actually serve as my first publishing credit because it was later accepted in a student anthology. That poem is called Love Me for Me. Love me for who I have become, not for who I was. Love me for my natural beauty, not for my plastic beauty. Love me not for my smile, but the love that shines through it. Love me not for my apparel, but for my sense of humor. Love me not for my laugh, but for the kindness that shines through it. All I ask of you is that you love me for me. The next poem that I'm going to read is, I ended up doing a lot of things in my pre-adult years where I was trying to find my identity. So I was enrolled in ballet and tap as a young child. Then I enrolled in the marching band in 6th grade because I wanted to avoid PE. But the thing that really changed my life was I had a friend show me a 2-page spread of a skateboarder in middle school, and I ended up falling in love with street skateboarding. And I've followed street skateboarding since 2004. The people have always accepted me within the community, and the athletes make their physics look like poetry in motion. And what other sport better showcases breaking bones, but getting back up and trying again just because of the passion you feel. I also tend to get bored watching traditional sports, but can spend hours watching skateboard videos and contests. And this poem is called Different Drum. I didn't belong in ballet, although I was good at tap, so I split from dance class. I hated the idea of PE in the 6th grade, so I joined the band, demanded they let me clash some cymbals, pound the bass drum, tinkle a melody across the bells, drum roll along the top of the snare, till they said I had to carry the drum on my back for all parades. I marched on. Our rhythms were off. Needing a place to belong, a friend opened a magazine, showed me a 2-page spread of this little 5-foot guy defying gravity over top of it. I Googled his name. It rhymed with heckler. I sent out for an autograph poster from him and got one back. Chelsea, thank you for the support, it read. My life only got better when I followed the melody of the music in my soul calling me home to a dirty and dark, mostly hot, concrete jungle where rap and grunge rock meet, the soundtrack of urethane wheels on concrete. Each time I visit, I see a mix of skin colors and faces, music tastes, styles all together in one place, rooting for one guy or girl to win first place. But instead of competitors, I'm greeted with a sense of camaraderie and friendship. When we go one, we go all type of deal. And it's here where the energy is unmatched. My soul feels at peace, and I belong. No matter the distance, whether together or apart, one thing is sure and true about me. Skateboarding will forever kickflip my heart. The next one that I'm going to read you guys is I suffered a near-death experience while in college. And from that experience, I struggled with my own life and what it all meant. And because of that, felt deeply depressed, but actually never had opened up to anyone about my struggles with mental health before that time. I watched the movie with the title based on the book and ended up writing this poem to help anyone else whoever has felt the pain and struggle battling depressive thoughts. This poem is called Perks of Being a Wallflower. I'm just a girl, really strong, like petals on a flower. I wilt. Underneath this smile, no one comes to water me or bring me sunshine. All I can see are dark clouds, ominous yet sad. Hope deflated, like helium in a balloon. I'm just a girl who wants that boy with the sensitive side to tell her she's beautiful right before he kisses her. I just want one person to have their life changed by the words I write on this page. In that moment, I'll know I'm not alone. Though the truth is hard to swallow when it's choking you, you know what else is hard to swallow? Life. People leave without explanation. Good people die too young. Bad people get all the glory, invites, and friends. If you don't know what you want to do in life, you're labeled a loser. If you've never been kissed, you're labeled a prude. I'm just a girl, pretty like a flower. Society has pushed me up against a wall. Does that make me a wallflower? Am I nobody for observing life instead of participating? I'm a strong wallflower, but I wilt. Sometimes I need water, a little rain, lots of sunshine. Mostly just love, to know someone, anyone cares. I'm just a girl with a beautiful heart and smile who doesn't believe in herself. The next poem that I'm going to read is a poem I wrote when I ended up moving back home after college, and I was struggling with my job search, who I was post-college, and utilizes many machines. Dating in your 20s, body dysmorphia, and college being a pyramid scheme. This poem is called Happy Medium. What's the difference between keeping quiet and suffering in silence?
Okay.
It's one breath between swallowing 1,000 pins while being stabbed repeatedly in the gut. Trouble slams the door repeatedly while I sleep. There's nothing worse for me than an interrupted dream. I crave it like a Godiva covered in whipped cream, a chocolate-covered strawberry dripping in melted desire. I think I'm just hungry for love. I have no appetite for casual hookups, kissing and telling, having my freak out in the streets, no matter how good I turn out and up in the sheets. How long until I can finally be me? Judgmental comments pierce my ears, judgmental condescending eyes, dirty looks. It seems my bae found a new bae that ain't me. Everyone moves on without me. No one sticks around to ride the waves of life with me. They just stop hitting me up. They just leave. What makes people stay? Giving them their own way. A healthy hookup of give and take. Heavily weighted compromise. Look me in the eyes. See the betrayal, the frustration, the bitterness of being through the ringer, seeing things no young human should, not saying things I wished I would, doing everything the critics said I couldn't. I know what they say, but I promise that I'm cool though. God says that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Plus he pays my bills, gives me chills, calms the thrills pulsing through my veins. I'm enough for him. For now, I'm content. Heaven will send me a man who loves me the same. Worships Jesus, loves me tenderly, fanboys my writing, kisses me softly in public. Hardly can stand the thought of waking up without me, entangled in sheets, swaddled in love, just us becoming weak. Romances me, sweeps me off my feet, just with the way he enunciates my name. Each syllable, a chord in the love song, the love story. A girl can dream, even if she never sleeps. You must have an xylophone in your belly, because every sentence you symphonize, each phrase rings in my ears on the right key, making it hard to forget your melody, like a radio earworm on repeat. I'm stuck between killing myself or them, since either one of us is better off dead. I'm less interested in the chase of having someone, more interested in someone who relentlessly pursues me, oppressed by a system that tracks my every move, just to prove I'm worth the cost of EBT. College graduate, worthless degree. Not on the talking stage with anyone. As I mentioned before, Bay got a new Bay, so I showed him the door. The most talking I do with anyone? The drive-thru window at Dunkin' Donuts. All fat, no luck, my own ghetto Starbucks. I'm loving this detox. Have you ever drank kale through a straw so the scale number wasn't so raw and ruthless? Swimsuit season, fast approaching, sweeping in faster than Florida humidity in April. Wonder what a cold season is, as I thaw out from the ice just served me, and the look my sister just steered straight for me, like a Zamboni with no brakes, all caked on makeup, no true face. Guess I've got to let go of you, the idea of you and I, not yet a we, separated by pride, stubborn point of view. My thoughts have made my head heavy. Lately, you've been on my mind, though we haven't spoken in years. All your fault, must be another pride thing. I should have never written you that letter. With that letter in my hand, I severed our good karma, positive vibes. I never got a hello or goodbye. You just stopped coming to my neighborhood, most likely because you don't want the invisible leprosy I have all over me. It's so contagious, it's affected my mind, my perception of me. Am I really being myself or fooling myself to think this is the lie I want to live? Did I ever have a choice? The next poem that I'm going to read you guys.
All this is true stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can I just say gasp?
Yeah, this is true. This is my life story.
Wow.
Written into poetry.
One of those.
The next poem that I'm going to read you guys is a poem written after seeing myself, a picture of myself in a red dress. And it has themes of feminism and self-love. And this poem is called Angel in Red. This may look like a young girl in a pretty dress, but she isn't a damsel in distress. She's a warrior, a rose, constantly blooming, never assuming the work for those she clears the path for will know her name nor her strength, but she carries on. Along a path not yet tread, she's well-versed and well-read, and yes, she looks damn good in red. The next poem that I'm going to read is about my experience, well, not really my experience, but kind of, it talks about depression, and it was written after working a shift as a restaurant hostess, as a restaurant hostess for an entire year. And one shift was incredibly hard, that it was mentally draining, and I found myself wondering why I felt so out of place.
Was this a late night shift?
Doing the job. No, it actually was breakfast, but it was like the weekend rush. And so this poem is about depression, and to convince myself and anyone who reads it not to forfeit the fight. And the poem is called Fight On Fighter. Chin up, soldier. I see you. I know you. You once had stars in your eyes, saw love as a rose instead of a thorn, once burned the town down single-handedly with the fire in your eyes. Yet life has gripped you by the shirt collar, mocked you, thrown you away, and down a twisted rabbit hole of all your nightmares come true. Don't you dare let the demons win. Steal the joy you can't seem to find when you hold the purple pen to paper. You hold that pen to paper until the tears wash the rain clouds from your eyes. See the goddamn diamond you are. Your beauty is rare and not always acknowledged. If they talk over you as they duct tape your mouth shut, write your way out of the shadows and let the light in. How do I know this? I know because I am you. Believe in the glory, fire and fury. The light is you. The next poem I'm going to be reading is a poem that I wrote and is inspired by growing up and being mesmerized by the mermaid show at Weeki Wachee Springs. I wanted to grow up to be a mermaid so much, I would come home from Weeki Wachee and reenact the entire show in my pool. But it is a poem I wrote in response to being diagnosed with autistic spectrum disorder and realizing that being different is never a bad thing. This poem is called Fish Out of Water. When I was younger, my favorite thing to do in the swimming pool was see how long I could hold my breath. I wanted to be like the captivating yet mysterious mermaids at Weeki Wachee Springs, free to float among the bottom of the ravine with the colorful fish, natural fauna. Spring forward to adulthood, and I'm still swimming against the current. Some days it drags me under, but I've settled in to the art of drifting with the ebb and flow of the rising tide. I've settled into the moments I can't breathe. Because I know, like the tide, I will rise and glorify the Creator for making me this way, a fish out of water. He was a man of the sea, so it makes sense how he didn't run when he spotted my sparkly scales along the length of my tail, or how I got bored in the shallow end. He was unafraid of the mermaid in me. The next poem that I'm going to be reading, for those that don't know the full story of what happened to me at that toxic employer, I ended up falling in love with a guy that I worked alongside there who I called Mr. Suncoast. He was the reason I stayed working there for 10 months, why I would show up every day, and he's the muse behind this poetry collection. This was a poem I wrote one day while working there and realizing my feelings were deeper than just a crush or thinking someone is physically attractive. I wrote this to admit my feelings to myself, but it still shows an inner conflict with those feelings. This poem is called Someday My Prince Will Come. Overrated. Lower your expectations, I whisper to my heart as I clock in, yet I still expect you to speak up, to smile, to look at me with longing, like you've never been loved before, and you've fallen for the first time. Our heart has no broken edges or scars, straight out of the factory, right off the press. But instead, you talk to me like I'm salt in your wounds, vinegar on your lips in the hot summer heat, lemon juice straight from the peel, sour and nothing you desire. You crush my expectations of all we could ever be, with all that we aren't. Mark my words, you will fall for me, and you will fall hard. I've already fallen for you, but still, I will rise. Because guys see everything first and foremost with their eyes, then their heart. Girls are smarter. We know looks fade, height diminishes with age, but still some of us wear our hearts on our sleeves like they are our crowns, and wonder ignorantly why we lose track of how to smile, how to hold our head up, or even to fall again. Because boys diminish a girl's light and shatter her crown, while men help her to rise victoriously and shine. Wait for a king. Someday my prince will come. Overrated. The next poem is going to be the longest poem I ever wrote at 30 stanzas and 738 words, and it was in response to leaving that toxic employer and feeling like I still had so much still that I hadn't yet acknowledged, but also shares my feelings openly with that young man and all that he meant to me. A portion of this poem was picked to appear in a virtual quarantine gallery, which you can still check out at theqgallery.com. This poem is called Unacknowledged. I shouldn't be writing this. A psychic told me that nothing would come from this situation. A counselor told me not to feed you with my thoughts or mental energy. I keep thinking about when I put a novel out, should I acknowledge you and your seasonal part in my story? It's this persistent picture that keeps playing in my head. I see your nickname on the page where you dedicate a book to someone. How do you dedicate a book to someone who blocked you on Facebook, ignores your texts, never offered an explanation about why he no longer wanted to be friends with you? Were you scared that I would beg you to love me? I'm sorry that I left without telling you why, that I would never blame you for the bad and evil things I witnessed and experienced at the hands of someone with envy in their heart and greed stuck between their tongue and their teeth. I didn't know what to say to you. I didn't know if you would tell me to stay or be angry with me because I saw them for who they are, instead of pretending I was dumb, deaf, and blind. Gone is your musical laugh and the sparkle in your eyes as you would smirk at me With this synchronicity, you thought it was all a ringless circus too. The guy in the top hat, the greatest showman. No Hugh Jackman, he couldn't juggle, tell jokes, or tame a caged lion. Spitting fire was his one and only talent. As the master of ceremonies, the elephant he rode would spray water from her trunk, killing dreams, hopes, and new ideas left and right. Unlike Dumbo, she was angry because her ringmaster clipped her wings and convinced her she couldn't fly. Fly she could, but he kept her chained and dependent on him for bread, water, and a place to rest her head. Yet he would demean her, keep her feeling small, so she always had to validate herself in his eyes only. It was a dark and dreary Tim Burton movie we were a part of, but like Zac Efron and Zendaya in The Greatest Showman, the characters we played were not convinced their love was enough to make it. Were you mad that I cared about you? Were you mad because there was nothing we could do about it? Were you mad that I had the courage and open door to grasp my freedom before they hung me like the witch they believed me to be? I did care about you. I was so thankful for you. I think you are a beautiful person. So ordinary but extraordinary, all in one person. So complex, such an enigma. To me, you will always be a mystery. Our timing was neither wrong nor right. You were good to me. I encouraged you. You made me feel heard. You didn't look at me for my body or physique, yet whenever I looked at you, I felt okay to be me. And for that, I don't regret how I fell for you, with no real motive or reason. I just loved you. I still love you. But you won't talk to me. So I guess I will write you the dedication after all, because it feels better to acknowledge you than pretend you didn't matter to me, that you still matter to me, that I don't think of you when I listen to Billie Eilish and I remember how I made you laugh, because I said she may be a Satanist. She's not. Yet just the notion of that didn't make you flinch or judge me, and you never forget someone like that. Someone who runs towards you and your outlandishness instead of away from it. Someone who makes you repeat what you said, even if you mumbled it because it deserved to be heard. Someone who always helped me, talked to me, and believed in me until you didn't. Someone who I miss, someone who I pray for every single day. Someone like you. You have to acknowledge someone like that. Even if it was only a series of moments, they made an ordinary, boring job memorable. Just the thought of you makes me look back at those months of my life and smile, even with tears in my eyes. I've let you go, but I just had to let you know that I acknowledge all you were to me and all I hope you become. Mr. Suncoast, this is for you. The next poem that I'm going to read was inspired by The One by Taylor Swift after listening to her folklore album nonstop for 3 days straight. As Mr. Suncoast was someone I always talked to about music, I wanted to reach out and tell him something about one of the songs, but ended up writing this poem instead. This poem is called Heart versus Mind. Today I miss your face, despite the fact that you made me chase you, only to turn around and settle in with her. I still don't understand why my heart chose you and chooses you still, even after you and I haven't spoken in months. The last thing you texted me was, "Who is this?" And the more I focus on what makes someone who seemed to get me, better than even my own family, turn around and act like we are strangers, the stranger I find love. Why do we spend so much effort, time, and thought on those who don't do the same for us? Still, I wish I could text you right now, or I could see you in person. I would salute you like you always did when you clocked out, like I was a valiant soldier, and you were in awe of me. Like a hometown war hero, we were stationed for different battlefields. The worst part is my heart is convinced that you are the key to silencing this battlefield in my mind. I wish my heart would forget you, but instead she hopes she will find you again. Until then, to honor you, to every battlefield, your face I must carry. And I promise to always soldier on. The next poem I'm going to be reading was written after watching the movie Amadeus and seeing them throw Mozart's body in an unmarked grave. Following studying and learning more about autistic spectrum disorder, I found out Mozart was also autistic. But his last composition he wrote was one entitled Requiem Mass that he basically died writing. So this poem is called I composed a requiem mass for us on my birthday. I wore black, visited rabbit holes that turned black with poignancy when they realized their chances of how the chords of piano keys mimicked that laugh. How the sight of your face made me remember that even if both of us wanted it at some point, we dug an early grave. This time we could save the possibility of us from such a dire, tragic, complicated, confusing, melancholy fate. With such a cacophonous symphony, I bet even Mozart was rolling in his grave. The next poem that I'm going to read is a poem I wrote about the many colors of love and how when you have a strong, all-consuming version of love or passion for things in this world, society tells you to water it down. But I say, go big or go home. This poem is called Kaleidoscope Love. The way I love is unlike anyone else. All heels overhead, I want you all to myself. Yet the hard part about that is that my head knows it's time to leave, pack up, and go. I realize that I've gone and dug my heels in. And that's what love is, right? It digs in, plants roots like a tree. It bends, sways, and soars with new heights, expands, and thrives. I've not gotten the chance to have that kind of love. Only the kind that blooms like a flower, wilts, then dies. Darling, my love is a prism of every color. My love is one of a kind. The next poem I'm going to read is a poem I wrote about the harmful things that people say to you post-breakup and how nothing really helps except going inward and loving yourself. Those are the hollow ground necessary to rebuild your foundation and start again. So this poem is called Hollow Ground. When things ended, people whispered and said so many things to me. He didn't deserve you. You'll find someone better. He sounds like a piece of work. Yet they were perfectly valid things to say to someone who finds themselves blocked. Yet would I dare say that about someone they loved? Absolutely not. The thought of being that cutting and curt would tie me up in knots. I was hurt as much by your deafening silence and their words. You didn't deserve the blame, that my name, my face, my eager smile caused you pain for some reason. Even though our season was over and our chance for love fell with the last crisp autumn leaf. A cold winter ensued like my heart never knew. But for me and my abnormalities, they were empty vessels, like words without vowels, harsh-sounding phonetics. All I wanted was one person to say, don't give up. You are worthy of love, and you don't need anyone to heal. You only need to realize you are the prize, and no matter if anyone claims you, you complete yourself. So anyone who needs it, let my voice resound. You are whole. You are worthy. You don't have to mingle if you're single or feel wrong that no one you wanted choose you. Choose yourself. The next one is a poem that I wrote about how the simple life gets a bad rep. It's underrated. But how simply falling in love with a simpleton changed my life forever. This is called Simplicity. So many people get carried away by the complexities of love. Hair color, eye color, stature, physique, yet they lose sight of the truth. That love, true love, weathers many storms, many gray hairs and waistlines that expand galore. True love was me looking into your kind brown eyes, feeling a peace I had never known. True love was why I fell in love with you, for the simplicity of how you were so complex. My chances with you were so far-fetched. Yet you enjoyed getting your hands dirty and smiled when someone asked for your advice about bikes. You enjoyed spending hours on the water, in a boat, fishing, away from it all, hunting, so you could glorify the prey on your walls. You were such a complex emotional enigma with such a simple man. I never planned to fall in love with you. Yet, against all reasoning and judgment, I did. I simply did. This poem is called What I Need. Peace. To get away from the thoughts that keep me up at night. From people who only see lack instead of abundance. To talk to someone who makes me see things from a new perspective. To find medicine that makes me happy, not numb or dizzy. To be thankful for what I have, like my health, longevity, vitality, my youth. Dogs that show me unconditional love, like a mini version of God. To get out of this crummy small town. To move out, to make the right amount of money, to dance, to sing, to laugh, to make real friends. To be more forgiving to you for not understanding me, but yet always underestimating me. To myself, when I feel like my life has been one big mistake, and for feeling like a fool for being this hung up on you. For you, for your inability to choose to love me, to get to know, to reply to my texts and explain one thing. If you didn't even want me, why did you put so much effort into making me think you did? What I need is truth, clarity, and love. No more, no less, in order to rise above everything that weighs me down. To smile instead of frown, to be silly, say what I feel exactly when I feel it. To focus on the love I do have in my life, to remind those in the world with stardust souls and unicorn hearts that it's okay to fall apart every now and then, just as long as you remember, it's not about the loss of the game. If you try again, you may win. Dedicated to Zoe, my golden retriever, who inspires me to dust myself off and get back out there, all with her cute bottom tooth grin. This poem is called Self-Care. Let's get one thing clear. It took you a while to get here. This didn't happen overnight, not without a fight or a few slip-ups along the way. But the person you think you need to say those things to doesn't care, didn't see all that you are, and prefers to create distance instead of vulnerability between you. You know what I mean. You came all this way, and you aren't going to let what you didn't get to say to them get in the way of who you are now. Whole, at peace with yourself, goddamn proud. Give yourself a shroud of credit. This took many edits to get this right. Many inner conflicts, many dialogues, many nights of tears on silk pillowcases. Repeat after me. I no longer require someone who doesn't value me to validate me. So go ahead, draft the text, but delete the number. Darling, the you are is no longer asunder. So slumber in peace. Live your life. And don't you ever think twice about this. The cost of this clarity, this place you are in, was much too expensive. Don't put us through that. Begin again. The next poem that I'm going to read actually came to me after hearing from someone over text who I hadn't spoken to in years on April Fool's Day, 2021, and at first thinking it was someone pretending to be Mr. Suncoast pulling a prank. This poem is called Metamorphic View. Out of the chrysalis of all I've been through, lately the energy feels different. Hope is anew, like the sunrise over the morning dew. I'm smiling again, laughing just because I can, finding the beauty in being alive. Not really concerned in who is a ride or die, alive for me, set on fire for me, or waiting for me to die. No longer focused on quantity, all I want are quality friends. Someone who texts you after years of not speaking, asking you how you've been, and the strangest thing happens. You realize what a profundity your life, your words, things you've done and said impacted someone enough that they remember you once again at 1 a.m. And for me, it's the simplicity and the complexities of life's most insignificant bonds and threads that makes me realize life is meant to be succulent, opulent, a colorful palette of mistakes, regrets, moments that push us back for 1 second to see the height, breadth, and width of the maker's canvas. The next poem that I'm going to read is actually the final poem in the full story edition of this collection about the universal truth that says if you truly love someone, you would want them to be happy even if it's not with you, and how writing this poem helped me accept that truth. It's called For What It's Worth. I wish I met you first, then you wouldn't have to feel this hurt. Now that you see what I saw, the world revolved around her. You were just a placeholder until someone greater came along. And honestly, that's so messed up and wrong. From the moment I met you, even though it hadn't been long, I saw good in you. I knew you weren't single because holy hell, it took everything I had when you were near me to keep my hands to myself. I didn't even know how she could keep her hands off you. Maybe nobody ever said that to you. Told you how handsome you were, called you sexy, but damn, here we are. I still think the world of you, and you basically wish I didn't exist. For what it's worth, I would have stuck it out longer than anyone who came before me. Love stays and fights through the battles, even when it's wounded and bleeding, because you made me feel so glad to be alive. You saved me when I wanted to die. And yeah, I'm writing you poem after poem, even though you always stop replying. It's pretty shitty for my pride. I don't care, because I love you. You made me feel safe as me, not some generic version of myself. I was 100% the real me with you. No holding back, my inner child let loose. And I'm sorry I always reach back out, but it's my way of reminding you that I'm so glad you exist. They say you know you love someone if you want them to be happy, even if it isn't with you. And when I met you, got to know you, opened up to you, fell in love with you, I understood the profundity in the truth, the truth that is you. But for what it's worth, the truth is clear. You steered me in the right direction. You set me free from unexpressed trauma and unhealed wounds. Even if you weren't the one I was made to love, I do. Thank you for being you. I pray you find who and what makes you happy, even if that person, that place.
Shut the fuck up. You're a fucking cunt. Shut the fuck up.
The next poem that I'm going to be reading is a poem I wrote after finishing the collection, related to the heartbreaking feeling of envisioning a future with someone who chooses to walk away, and how that entire feeling feels like you physically have to surgically remove someone's face from your heart and soul, and is truly so very painful. This poem is called Losing Your Best Friend. I don't know why you do this. Stop replying, block me, then unblock me, watch my story, but we don't talk. I guess I should chalk it up to say you don't care enough. But really, then there's me, who can picture us still talking at 5 in the morning about me making a fake Snapchat just to add you. Making plans to grab a drink and let what's suffocating in our heart off our chest. Playing skee ball and air hockey at my favorite arcade. Watching the sunset, not saying a word. You leaning in to kiss me, me saying, what took you so long? You comforting me in a lightning storm, on the flight to Greece, you holding my hand, since the feeling of flying puts me in a state of unease. You fishing while I read a book. You reel me in with that adorable look, brown eyes, lifted eyebrow, a smirk, yet a smile. You and I talking about conspiracy theories over shots of rum. Me running wild in my thoughts on how far we could have gone, but now you're technically gone. And I pictured all this with you. It being you in the end of all of it. Music and credits roll, and if it isn't you, I probably shouldn't say this, but I don't want any of it. And the final poem that I have for you guys today is a poem that I also wrote after finishing the collection, and I wrote it after kind of suffering with imposter syndrome following releasing my book. I launched my book and had a very successful and welcoming and accepting launch day for the full story, and then struggled with imposter syndrome. But I wrote this for anyone who struggles with negative thoughts. This is called Beast of Burden. The scraping in my mind, the same uncomfortable pitch as nails on a chalkboard. The voices repeat, words to defeat any influx of hope. You aren't enough. No one likes you. You won't ever be loved like any other girl. Your poetry collection won't amount to much. You basically suck. I don't even know why you try. He doesn't text back because he doesn't like you at all. The sadness envelops me deep inside. I hide it and tell people I'm fine. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to seize existence. Yet I must center myself to awaken the love I have for life. And remember that depression means well, but she tends to lie, connive, and suck the breath from your lungs, leave you numb. If you ask me, depression is dumb. And that is my poetry reading of the full story edition. I will open the floor up to any questions now for me.
First, I gotta clap.
Thank you.
My daughter's autistic, by the way, the oldest
Oh,
one.
wow. Okay.
And so is my nephew.
My question is, you said about skateboarders. Do you write anything more about skateboarders?
I actually, my novel that I wrote as a teenager had a skateboarding character in it. I rewrote it 10 years later, and that's actually going to be my next work that I'm going
That's
to be
good. I used to
putting
street
out.
skate too.
Yeah.
When I was much thinner. I can't even stand on one now.
Yeah, it's gonna, there was actually a hint of the title of it in that poem, Different Drum.
Just a hint.
Yeah, just a hint.
Oh, that was really good.
Thank
Yeah, it
you
was
very
very
much.
wonderful.
Thank you all for coming today. I guess now, if you guys would like to purchase a copy, if my words resonated with you, feel free to come up and I will gladly sign a copy for you guys.
All right.
I don't have any money, so I'm just gonna rip some pages out of it and run.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't do that. I would
Put it to photographic memory.
Yes,